here, like April said, I would have never in a million years pictured myself being up here. I bought the Laura earrings, and that was pretty much the extent of it. You can ask Brian. I'm not a very showy person, and so when I finally talked to him about it, I wanted more of a battle with him joining this company, and he was like, babe, just do it. And I'm like, no, but there's drawbacks. He's like, just do it. I'm like, no, but there's money. And he's like, just do it. And so if it hadn't been for him, which this is my husband, Brian, if it hadn't been for him just believing in me, I wouldn't be up here today. But his favorite day of the week is tomorrow. My favorite day is yesterday. And so we kind of meet in the middle and get stuff done today. He still gets his stuff done tomorrow, which tomorrow never seems to come. But I pretty much brought my whole entire office with me. I don't do a lot. I don't have extravagant things. Kelly came and watched me yesterday, and she goes, it's so simple. And the way I do stuff is I want it to be cookie cutter. If I have 10 people below me and 10 people below them, I want them to be able to call me at any point in time and go, hey, I've got this going on, and I know exactly what they're talking about. If you get too far stretched out and you try too many different things and you keep going in different directions, your business isn't going to be stable, and therefore your downlines isn't going to be either. So what I've done is pretty much created a very simple little plan, and I've passed it on to my girls, and thank goodness they're rocking and rolling with it too, so hopefully it'll help y'all. Now, I know y'all have heard April talk about calendars and stuff like that. I'm a huge, huge believer on staying on task, making to-do lists. You can ask Brian. I've got sticky notes everywhere, from our counter to his truck to my truck to any calendar I have. I color code everything from personal to jewelry shows and stuff like that. But if you haven't had the chance to get it, it is a lifesaver. It's the premier calendar that they have online. I think they're $12. I purchased it, and I wish I would have done it last year so that I could have started in January, because I love all the colors. But it's just really nice because you have your months, and as you can see, yes, I had 4 shows cancel on me in January, but I still hit 5 because I didn't give up. I always tell people, if you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. It's very scary making those phone calls. I don't like doing it. It's very scary asking people for help. But women, for some reason, love to help other women. And so if you ask in a certain way, you will get certain shows. And so that's just what I've done. But what I usually do is I'll book a show, and I put it immediately on my calendar. I put it in my phone. I set reminders for myself. I start contacting a hostess about a month in advance. I'm like, hey, can you meet me? I want to come and sit down with you and have coffee, or I'm a huge ice cream person. I'm like, let's meet at Dairy Queen or have ice cream. We'll sit down, we'll go through the hostess packet, and I'll just show you how easy it is, because you're helping me. I want to help you not be stressed out. And so I usually start about a month in advance, and I contact them. I don't bug them again until 2 weeks out. And then I'm like, hey, just letting you know, I'm going to see you in 2 weeks. If you need anything, let me know. If you need help creating a Facebook event, if you need help with postcards, let me know. I will do this. It doesn't cost me anything. I've got the time. Even if I don't, I still make the time to do it for them. And then probably in a week in advance, I contact them like, hey, just so you know, I'll see you next week. And then I usually post a special on their Facebook website to kind of get the women that are kind of hesitant to come to their shows more involved in everything. And I have all this written down in my thing. I pass this around if y'all could decipher what it means. But I will even put in here, contact hostess shows in 1 month, contact hostess shows in 2 weeks and stuff. And I make my follow-up calls the day before, and I do it in a way so that I'm not going, hey, how many people do you have? Oh, you only have 3? Okay. I go, how many people do you have? I'm trying to get packets together and stuff. Just let me know. Oh, you've got 3? That's perfect. I love small shows. I never make people feel unimportant. I don't care if they've got 2 people there, if they've got 15. Every show is a show, and it's money in your pocket, and it's the opportunity to meet somebody new. I told April, I don't wait until February hits to start booking shows. I start at the beginning of this year. I started making contact phone calls. If somebody told me that they couldn't come until March or April, I went ahead and said, okay, well, what day of the week works best for you? If you're in Live Oak, I can do them on Saturdays or Sundays. And 9 times out of 10, I go ahead and put them on my calendar. Now, what I'll do is I'll have jewelry shows in between those, and when I go to those, I will fill in the spaces for that month. I don't tell anybody that's 3 or 4 months down the road, no, sorry. I've even got shows on my calendar for July. I had a woman reschedule. She told me, she goes, we're going to be going out of town. Can I do it in July? I've got some family coming into town, and I think it would be fun to do. I'm like, sure, pick a day. And so she did. Put her on my calendar. And I've already set my reminders to contact her a month in advance and all that stuff. But it's just, planners and planning will help your business tremendously. You've got to stay ahead of it. You can't fall behind, because once you get behind, you're going to stress yourself out, you're going to struggle, and this business isn't going to be fun to you. I love doing stuff like this, and so it just comes very natural to me. I actually am going to pass this around for y'all just to look at. There's some stuff in there. But the behind-the-scenes work for me to keep my business simple and to keep me from going crazy, because I do shows, I try to do on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And a lot of times you don't want to be sitting in a printer and you run out of ink and you don't have anything to do. So what I did is, from a fellow jeweler, or an old jeweler, Nicole, she showed me how to do this. So what I did is I have 3 binders. I label 1 guest folders, I have 1 that says hostess, and I have 1 that says sponsor folders. Inside here, I put page protectors. I printed out, April has sent all of us all this information, and I just printed it out and put it in page protectors. It's a list in the order of stuff that you need for your hostess folders. Behind it is the copies. I usually print 1 in white, that way I have the hard copy when I need it, and then I will fill in 15 to 20 copies behind it with colored paper. That way when I come home from a show, I'm not sitting in front of the printer, I'm not going, oh my gosh, Brian, we've got to run to Walmart, I've got a show tomorrow, it's midnight, and I need ink and copy paper. I will go ahead and print out surveys and stuff and go ahead and cut them. That way when I come in here and I'm stuffing my folders, I've got them, they're ready to go. And it's just like, I even have posted or sales receipts in here as well. That way I have them. I don't have to go searching for them. And I just keep it like this. And I'll touch on the envelope game that I'm doing it's producing bookings, and I love it. But I even have like the little coupons for my backups in case like somebody happens to walk off with theirs and I don't get it back. But that's just for my guest folders. Now I have probably 15 to 20 already pre-made. Will I ever use them? Probably not. Are they there for me so I don't stress out? Yes, they are. I even have 10 extras sitting in my house. That way if we're going out of town, I know I've got 3 shows back to back to back. I grab all my folders. I don't even have to worry about this stuff. Now what I usually do is I wait until I get down to probably like 3 or 4 copies, and then I make 15 to 20 more, and I just stick them in there and don't even think about it. Now for your hostess folders, I go ahead and pre-make my folders. As soon as I get that package of 10 in the mail, I go ahead and stuff it with everything. And once again, like I said, page protectors, everything's in here. Oh, there's a to-do list. It says make copies. But it's just everything in here that she will need, minus the monthly special. But even if there's a monthly special, I will go and print it out and have it in the back so I can make multiple copies depending on who I have that one. Now, I even want to be like that for other people that come along behind me. Now, what I do is I take folders. I take manila folders to every single show. I think Kelly saw mine yesterday. I have them sitting in the back of my thing. I don't touch it. All I do is I take all the receipts, all the guest surveys, and any future bookings, and I will put them all inside that folder. When I get home, I take that folder, I immediately enter my show in, I do everything I need to do. If I need to restock stuff, I do it. But what I will also do, and I'll send this to April, is I created a little Excel spreadsheet. And when I get home, I print it out. I enter their names in, I fill out their surveys across the thing, and then I make little notes down here. Follow up with so-and-so, she put a 3 on it, she's interested, talk to her. Follow up with this person, she might want to schedule a show. And then whatever they put on their surveys, I write it on here. That way I have it. And so when I go back to do my mystery hostess, yeah, and I tell them, I'm like, okay, you know, if you want to get free jewelry like, I want to use Kelsey as an example. If you want to get free jewelry like Kelsey, this is, you know, a way to do it. Premier gives you blah, blah, blah back. And then I'll say, okay, now we're going to play a little game. It's your chance to win some free jewelry. And I'll tell them, like, the envelope you're holding has 1 of 3 things in it. And then I go through the 3 things, and then I'm like, but and I make sure that somebody's holding that blue envelope, because if not, I'm going to look like a brat if everybody opens it up. Somebody's like, well, she said I had $25. But I always tell them, like, you know, somebody's holding that $25, and 9 times out of 10, you'll see them look at it, and they'll think about it. And I had 2 girls yesterday. One was like, I don't know, and then she pulled it back. She's like, I don't know. So I was like, you can think about it. I said, but as soon as you give me that envelope, our deal's off. So you can still book a show, but I don't have to honor what's inside. And she was like, oh, okay. So she held on to it. And she's like, fine, I'm just going to book a show. And I was like, okay, thanks. And she ended up winning, like, I think free shipping or something. And she was very excited about it. Now, what I've also started doing is a blessing bag. It was on one of the trainings that we listened to. It just kind of helps you share the business. Before, I was just standing up there and I was talking, and I just wanted something visual, like I told y'all before. And on that one training, the girl said that this had helped her out a lot. And so what it is you want to put a couple of items in here. And the 5 things that she put in, one of them was a bling ring. And she explained it that you put a ring in here or something blingy because it gets their attention. But you also tell them the jewelry is ours. You get to wear it. Jewelry is the #1 selling retail in the United States. Women love it. The jewelry sells itself. You don't have to be a spokesperson or anything great. People will buy this. The next thing she put in here was if I can get all the pieces, it's a cut-up credit card. And it just shows you that you can pay off debt with this company. We make 50% of our sales. You have a downline that you can, sponsor and make money off of them too, but you can pay off your debt very quickly. And I always tell them, like, I've talked to other companies and they don't make near as much as Premier does, which is the truth. I was speaking with a Cincy rep the other day. They only get paid 25% of their home shows, and they don't make hardly anything off their downline. Another thing that you want to put in here is your charm bracelet. And the reason you put this in here is because a lot of times women will ask, well, how do you keep your business growing? How do you keep the jewelry on your tables? Well, Premier actually gives you incentives, and you can win certificates, and you can cash in. And I tell them, we just went to Raleigh, I saw the spring line, I bought $800 something worth of jewelry, and I spent $32 because I cashed in each one of these charms. Another thing that's in here is handcuffs, and I always go, it's not that kind of show. And I just tell them that you're not handcuffed to any inventories, you're not held to any quotas, you make your own schedule, you work when you want and how often you want. And then the last thing that's in here is an ice cream scoop. And I tell them, if you want to know more and you want the scoop, just let me know, I've got some information. And that's all you have to do to share the business. So, and that ice cream scoop doubles as a weapon too. So, I'm trying to think of what else. Do y'all have any questions? Because it helps.
What do you do when they say, I'm really busy,
or I'm trying to save money?
Yeah.
I got that twice.
Yeah.
Yes.
From future hostesses?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll go, well, okay, that's fine. I tell them, like, well, why don't you post right after March? Because tax season's coming in and everybody gets the tax returns. And a lot of women will come to your show and probably spend the money because they were good and they just had Christmas and probably didn't get what they wanted, or they got a lot of clothing and they need the jewelry. So they'll come spend their tax returns on it. But if they're hesitant, I never push them. I never go, well, you've got to have a date like by this. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I usually write their name down somewhere, and I will contact them in a little bit, and I'll just kind of talk to them behind the scenes, like, hey, I know that you were really interested in being a hostess and you're kind of sketchy about money or whatever. I can help you get a lot of people there. I've got the means to do it. I've got postcards. I've got a red stamp app that I've got a red stamp app that you can send out to people in town. We're running a special, so it'll help people get there. It'll increase your sales. It'll get you more in free. And if she's still kind of hesitant, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, you've got my business card. Just give me a call. I'll follow up with you in a little bit. I'm never one of those that's like, I need you to host a show now. Like, you've got to get on my calendar. Because if somebody came at me like that, I'd be like, who are you, crazy lady? But I always tell people I sell how I shop. When I walk into a store, if somebody approaches me, like at Buckle, they stress me out to no belief. They're in their face because they have those quotas. They have to meet a certain amount. And it completely turns you off. Like, you might have gone in there and spent $300, but as soon as they're in your face, like demanding, you don't even want to be there. So I'm very laid back. I let people come to me. I talk to them. And don't be afraid to tell people why you started Premier. I tell them all the time. I'm like, I lost my job. I had nothing, nothing going on. I didn't want to stress him out, so I took on extra income. People want to hear that you had a success story from something that was terrible. Whether you lost your job, whether you wanted the income, whether you want the family, just the camaraderie that you get from all these women. A lot of times, like one of my jewelers, she signed up because she's a stay-at-home mom of 3. She never gets out. The first time she went to Raleigh with us, she had not been out in over a decade by herself. And so it was one of those, like, she had a different need for it. And I always tell people, I'm like, some people get in it for money, some people get in it for the social life, some people get in it because they want to help others and do a lot of fundraisers and stuff. To each his own, and so you have to look at it like that because not everybody's going to join for your same reason. But what I always tell people is be nice to everybody. Don't get on Facebook and complain about, like, my business is going slow, I can't get bookings. Do it to all of us. Do it to your upline. Don't do it to where other people can see it, because once you put that negative thing out there, people are going to feed off of it. But if you are rocking and rolling, I don't care if you've got one show on your calendar throughout the month and you're like, yay, I've got a bunch of bookings. Like, don't let people know how many or how few you have. Always say, I've only got a couple of spots left. I'm kind of busy. Women want that, like, oh, this is a limited edition. It's only a special time. I've got to jump on that. Like, we're all wired that way. Yeah, and so they're going to jump on that same bandwagon, and it actually helps you out. But if you start putting on there, like, I can't get any bookings, I can't do this, you're never going to sponsor anybody because they're going to see only the negative side of it instead of seeing, like, all the good things that you're doing. So.
I was going to tell you something. I went to Natalie's show today. She rocked it. And I personally went, like, expecting to see the next greatest thing, and I was like, no, I have to implement this. And if anything, I left going, I need to cut some things out of what I'm doing because I'm trying to do too much. I mean, it's very simple. And with Natalie, what I loved watching her, whether it was closing out a sale or getting a hostess on her calendar, she made them say no without pressuring them. She didn't say, it's okay if you can, or, well, if you want to do this. she didn't like talk them out of it. She just waited and let them decide for themselves, if that makes sense. Like when you're closing out a sale, I noticed there was one girl that was at $70, and she's like, well, you're gonna want to go pick out something else from the table so you can get the $50 item for only $10. Whereas I'm thinking in my mind, I would have been like, well, if you want to get like, ribbon or something.
I think I just said, I was like, girl, you were so close. I was like, a carpet's only like $10 and a ribbon's only $5. I'm like, do you want something else? I'm like, it's $50 and it's only $10. And she was like, no. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, well, next time. So I'm just filling her out, and I closed her out and sent her on. But the other woman, because it worked one time, she was very close, and I told her, I said, you realize that you're like at that mark where if you spend like maybe $20 more, you're gonna get 2 items, because she had hit like 150 or something. So I was like, you're gonna get 2 items for $20. I was like, that's $100 worth of jewelry for only $20. And she's like right back at the table. And so I was like, yay, that worked. But I mean, it's just, you've got to make women feel comfortable when they're shopping, and a lot of times I just kind of like stand back and let them do their thing, and I kind of casually talk to them. I'll walk up to the jewelry table with them, and I'm like showing them stuff, and I'll be talking to one person, but I'm doing it for everybody else to see, because when April was there, I was the one that was like standing at the table like, oh, it's really pretty. I'm not gonna wear it. So, but yeah, I like those diamond earrings. And still to this day, I get compliments on those Laura earrings, because everybody thinks that Brian just spent a whole bunch of money on me. And for the first 5 seconds, I'm like, yeah, he did. And I'm like, actually, I sell these. You wanna come and shop? You gotta get out of your comfort bubbles. And I know that sounds funny. I hate talking in front of people. I hate it. Like right now, I'm sweating. But it's just something you have to overcome. And like, use your purse game or whatever game it is. Make it yours. Love it. Get it down pat to where if you were to leave your purse game at home, you could run through everything and not even have to have it. If people sitting out there don't know what you're doing, they're not going to know you mess up. If you stumble through something, if you forget something, keep trucking, because they don't have that sitting in front of them going, well, she just missed page, whatever. You've got to be confident in yourself enough to get up here, and I call it my security blanket, and that's what I tell my downline. I'm like, you got your security blanket, you're good to go. And she's like, yeah, I do have it. And even at one of my shows, the girl was sitting there, and she goes, well, how do you know what to say? And so I flipped my folder around. I said, girl, I can read. I'm cheating. And she thought that was the funniest thing because she didn't know. Granted, I hold it out here, and I'm 5'10", so it looks like I'm looking down at him, but at the same time, it works. I was going to say something about that, and I just went blank. Somebody asked me a question, and it'll come back.
I would like you to do yeah.
My booking
So
activity?
we can see it.
Okay. Is this all my stuff back? Got places it's got to go.
Passing it out.
Yep.
So Natalie and I went to lunch last week, 2 weeks ago, and one of my things is I'm nervous about the calls too, but even more so, I have a hard time with the strangers. Like, when people compliment me, I panic, I freeze, I can't. And we went to Jason's Deli, and the first woman actually complimented something she had on. So she came back to the table, and we talked about it, and she went and gave her a card, and I had a mini catalog, so she took that. And then the other one, I guess, was behind me, but facing Natalie. And I kept seeing her look over my shoulder. I kept looking at her. She's got so much jewelry on. I was like, yeah? I said, do you recognize any of it? And so we were talking. I'm trying not to turn around and look at her. So after about 15 minutes, she was finally like, I have to say something to her. So I gave her another catalog. She filled out her card, and she walked up to me. She's like, hi. You seem to really love jewelry, and so I wanted to ask you if you've ever heard of Premier. And it just was like, okay, I can do that. That's not that big of a deal. And so, I mean, just being approachable and smiling. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing with her for me is I watch, she's just friendly with them, and people like that. I mean, when everywhere we go, we're so rushed and pushed to move through, and nobody really takes the time to talk to us. So I think that's something.
That was another thing that just crossed my mind. A lot of times you'll come across women that say, I don't know people. I don't know that many people. And I'm thinking, you only know your bubble of friends. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, think outside the 5 people that you hang out with on a weekly basis. Think about church people. If you've got kids, think about daycare workers. If you go to the bank, take that extra 2 seconds and walk inside. I used to be a teller. We got no interaction from people other than, why is my account overdrawn? And I'm like, well, you keep spending money. But I literally will go inside and make deposits if I have the time. Make the time for it. I do it on my lunch break. I'm like, I gotta go to Bank of America. I've got to pay whatever. I've got to get money out of my account. I will walk in there and do it, and I kid you not, every time I go in there, somebody compliments me on my jewelry, and I tell them, like, hey, I sell it. Would you want to host? And they're like, heck yeah. You don't have to, go into depth or whatever. Just kind of casually be like, yeah, I sell Premier, and, if you host, you get it for free. All you got to do is have a couple girlfriends over. And they're like, really? The bank ladies could come. We can get together. And I'm like, yeah, get together, and, we'll have something. We can do it at Starbucks. I always tell them Dairy Queen because I love ice cream. Or I give them options. And then I tell them, I'm like, well, we can do a catalog show, too, if you can't make it. You never want to close yourself off. Going to the post office. The ladies down in Crawfordville know me by name. They know I'm a jewelry lady because of how much stuff I'm like constantly sending off and doing. And I never once pressured them. They asked me what I did. I told them what I did. The other day she goes, do you have an online website or something that I could look at? I said, yes, I do. And I always carry my business card in my back pocket when I go in there, just in case they ask. Pulled it out, I handed it to her. I said, my information's on the back and, this, that, and the other. And she goes, okay. And I'm doing a mystery hostess show for the first time next month. And I'm hoping it turns out well, but I told her about it. And she goes, I'm going to get my shift covered. I'm coming to it because I love that. I wear that key necklace all the time. She goes, I want that key necklace. And I was like, well, come, you can get it. And I said, remember, if you host now, you can get it for free. And she was like, oh, okay. And so she thought about it. You just got to think outside your normal friend zone because I tell you what, when I asked in August, my best, closest friends that I thought would be the first ones to host for me didn't. They still haven't. Have I asked them to do it again? No, they know what I do. If they want to host one for me, they can. I've made 33 shows happen last year from 6 people because I trusted in myself. I made those phone calls. I reached out when I didn't want to. Granted, I hide behind text messages a lot because I'm a huge texter. I'm like, okay, just send it to me and I'll get back to you. But you got to respect other people. Don't call them at 9 o'clock at night. Don't call them at 10 o'clock. Kind of do it around like the lunch hour when you're sitting there. If you're eating somewhere, send them send out that text message. Make it so it can be mass produced, and then just change their name when you send it. Please don't send something like, "Hi April," and it's Lisa. Just make sure you're paying attention. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do this. So as soon as you would walk in, like I'm going to do you two since you're sitting here. I would just hand y'all these. I'm like, don't open them. It's like Christmas. And I told them, like, you can take it. It's not going to do anything. I'm going to get back to y'all in a little bit, but I just want y'all to hold on to those. Now keep up with them because if you lose them, you might not get what's inside. And then later on, I'm going through and I'm doing my hostess thing, and then I get to the part where I talk about the free jewelry that you can get. I'm like, ladies, being a hostess, you get 30% of your jewelry sales back in free jewelry. I'm like, that is incredible. And I'm like, you see these 6 boxes? I'm going to say that Holly Hostess had a $500 jewelry show. And I'm like, now, if you're like me, we're not very good at math, but I went ahead and did the math for us. I'm like, these boxes represent $25 a piece. I have a total of, by the way, it's a total of 15 boxes because it's your 6, your 8, and then your 4. I think that's, no. 18. Thank you. I can't do math. I can stack them up. But I have them all set out, and then I'm like, on top of that, Premier will give you back 4 to 8 items at half price depending on how big your show is. And I walk them through the 100 to this 100, and then I'm like, above 500 you get 8. But I'm saying Holly Hostess rocked it. She's getting all 8. And I'm like, if you do a little bit extra, this company loves that, and they reward people who step out. If you have $100 in advance sales, you get $50 in free jewelry. And I always tell them, like, when I first did this, and April told me that I could get $50 or $25 back in the day, I was like, man, I can't ask somebody to buy $100 worth of stuff. I can't even afford $100 worth of jewelry. So I even asked her, I said, how many items in the catalog are under $25? She goes, I'm going to have to get back to you. She got back to me. It's 97 items. And I always tell people when I'm hostess coaching, I'm like, if you have $100 in advanced orders, you get $50 in free jewelry. And I'm like, now I know that might sound like a lot, but there are 97 items in our catalog under $25. If you show it to 4 or 5 women, you qualify, you just got yourself $50. And so it's that mindset of, oh, I can do that. I can sell somebody $25 worth of jewelry. And then I touch on, if you have 3 friends, or say they want to host, you get an extra $50. And I'm like, okay, now we're going to play a game, so I want you to pull your envelopes out. And they usually do, and they'll hold them up and look at them. I'm like, you still can't open them. And you'll see, like, I'll hear the Velcro, and I'm like, hey! And they'll start laughing. I'm like, oh, I put it on there. But I tell them, like, that envelope you're holding means that you want to get free jewelry like Holly Hostess today. You want to get that free jewelry for yourself because you want to expand your wardrobe. And it's cheaper to expand your wardrobe with jewelry than it is to go out and buy new clothes. The envelope you're holding says you want to host a show. You want me, and I usually have Shanita. I'm like, you want me and Shanita to come to the house. She's very quiet. She doesn't eat a lot. And people love Shanita. Like, people ask for her before I even get there. Like, is she coming? I'm like, yeah, Shanita's
That's her mannequin.
Yes, that's my mannequin, by the way, in case y'all didn't know. And she's named Shanita because she needs a new piece of jewelry. She needs new legs now. She always needs something, so she's Shanita. But I'll tell them, like, that envelope you're holding has one of 3 things in it. Either free shipping on your order, $5 off, or an item at half off today. So I want you to think about that while you're holding it. Now, on top of that, one of you is actually holding a gift certificate redeemable for $25 at your jewelry show. So not only could you possibly get, and I point back to the boxes, I'm like, all this jewelry for free, you can get $25 off of it on top of all that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk around the room and I'm going to ask you if you want to play. If you want to, hold on to your envelope. Don't open it yet, because if you don't tell them that, they'll start opening them. And then if somebody already has the $25, then the rest of them are like, well, I didn't win. So I tell them, like, don't open it yet. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to ask if you want to play. And usually I'll come up and if you host this coach really well and you talk to them in advance and you say, hey, if you've got a friend that would like to host, let me know. And as soon as they get there, kind of talk to them, fill them out. You know the ones that want to host immediately. I start with that person first because it's a waterfall effect. You ask the first one, she says yes. 9 times out of 10, the second one's going to keep it. 9 times out of 10, the third one's going to think about it. But more people will keep it than if you just walk up to some random person and go, do you want to play? And they're like, no. Then everybody hands them back to you. So talk to that hostess, kind of fill her out, see if she's got any friends that want to host in advance, and it will help you out, I promise, because I do it every single show. I start with that person, I'm like, hey, you want to host? And she's like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, okay. And then 9 times out of 10, they all keep going. Then I have them all open it at the same time, and you'll hear somebody scream, I got the $25, because I make sure to give it to somebody that I know is going to have it. And so that's just kind of what I do. And then they open it, and you would have the $25.
So you collect the non-players first, and then you have all the players open at the same time.
Yep. And I tell them to keep the envelopes with them, and that's when I walk over when we're all done with their surveys, and I just hand them that home registration card. I'm like, hold on to this. I never pressure them for a date right there. I'm like, hold on to this. Because then while you're checking them out, they're busy, not standing there going, I wish you'd hurry and swipe my card so I can get out of here. She's paying attention to something else. So we'll get a date. That way I know that I've got to reach out to them and get them on my calendar. And as soon as I do, I'm holding that certificate. I'm like, okay, well, your show is tomorrow. This thing expires the day after. And they'll go, it has an expiration date on it? I'm like, yes, and it's only redeemable from me. So please don't go up to some other jeweler and be like, hey, I got this $25. Can I use it? But it just helps keep them held to their show date, and it keeps them from changing it. Because once they do, you don't have to honor that thing anymore. It doesn't have an expiration date on it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
you explain the card in your hand again?
This one? Yeah. It's just, this is what I give them. Like, if you hold an envelope, I tell them to keep the envelope, and then I know I'll swap out the envelope with this, and I tell them, like, hold this. Yeah, and when they come check out, that's when I'm like, let's pick a date. I'm adding up all their stuff. They're looking at the calendar. I know a lot of times people say, don't give your calendar. I have a generic one, and I mark out dates that's not available. And then I have stars on stuff that I will do. Now, a lot of times I'm like, well, I can't do that date. If you're in Tallahassee, I'm open. I am 7 days a week. I'm like, whenever you want to host, that's fine. But if they're in Live Oak, I'm like, well, I kind of want, Saturdays and Sundays, so let's stick to that. And then I'll ask them, like, this month, next month. Well, as you can see, I'm kind of busy. And so they'll go, okay. And they'll immediately want to get on that calendar. And then that's when I fill this card out. They hold it. And then, well, I give this, I keep. This is mine. As soon as they get this is mine. And I learned something from April the other night, and I have started sending out the postcards as soon as they get on my calendar. I know I've got to send a postcard out to tell them, like, hey, remember, you get $50 for keeping your original date, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for booking on, and I give them the time and the date and everything. That way they have something to hang on their calendar, or their fridge, hopefully, and they'll remember that I'm going to be harassing them come, like, a month out. So, but yeah, I used to put little diamond stars on there and bling it up, but I ran out of them, so I just put stars on there now. But yeah, this is what I use when I fill out my calendar, when I put them in my phone and everything, because you've got their address, you've got their cell phones. These are very important, but I keep them in the folders from each home show. So if I ever have to go back and be like, oh, she said later on she couldn't figure out what date or where the address was or anything, I have these still with the hostess.
So does everybody that opens up an envelope, are they having a show?
Yes, that's what the thing means.
Cards, the 25's one, free shipping, and then there's one more. Is that all only redeemable at your show, since that's what you're going for to try to make them have a show?
The other three are. The $25 is at her show.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that she stays honorable to like this and holds up her end of the deal.
Okay.
But I mean, that's hit or miss.
Right.
But 9 times out of 10, they'll stay on my calendar just because I don't pressure them into it. I let them come to me and say, yes, I want to host. Sorry, y'all.
Okay.
If nobody picks the
25?
yeah, do you let them go around again? No.
Nope. Because I tell them, I'm like, and I will tell them flat out, I'm like, you had the $25. You'll see them go, man, I should have kept it. I'm like, yeah, I know. And then 9 times out of 10, they'll come up to me and go, well, I still kind of, I'm interested in it. Like, it's funny how they knew that they had it, but they still kind of want to come up. And I'm like, well, I still got dates open. We'll get it on my calendar. I'm going to tell you no. I used to try to pass it back around, but then it got to where they knew where it was.
Right.
And so I will switch it up after every single show, because I had it in green the other day, and the girl's like, it's green, it means money, I'm keeping it. And I was like, yeah, you are right. I can't argue with you, but I'm now going to switch it up again. Thanks. Anybody else?
How many pieces of jewelry do you usually show?
It depends. I was going to tell y'all too, I started doing something a little bit differently the past 2 times, and it's actually worked out better. I used to bring pieces with me and have my mannequin set up in the living room or wherever I was, like away from the table, and I'd try to grab as many pieces as I could, you know, that I knew the tricks to, and I'd bring them in there and I'd show them. Well, the other day, the way her house was set up, I left my mannequin in the kitchen next to the table. And when I got to M for modeling, I was like, hey, I want all of us to go on a field trip real quick. I'm going to show y'all some tricks. Let's go into the other room. And so they all came and they stood around the table, and some of them sat down. I showed them the tricks by the table, and I let them feel the jewelry and everything, and they started going, well, what, does this one do something? And I was like, yeah, and it was pieces that I had already prepared myself to show, but it was easier for them to get involved, like, hey, I want to see this one, I want to see this one. And then I always do the pearls last. I tell them, I'm like, this is the last one I'm going to show. I do all the tricks, and I'm like, okay, let's go finish the game. We've only got 3 letters left, and then I'm going to let y'all shop. And so that's, I mean, I usually show the Over the Moon. I'll show Urban Night mixed with Very Berry, because you show the layering. I'll show the St. Lucia one because you can take it off and make it a bracelet. And then I talk about how Premier went that extra step further and made 2 clasps, that way like the little string's not hanging down. And then I'll show it with a ribbon. You always want to show your clippets and stuff. And then I'll show a pendant, and how the Manhattan is another one that women just absolutely love. I show that one with the swirl pendant or whatever, and then the last one I usually do is my pearls. So it's pretty quick, and then like I said, I will actually walk back in there with them once it's over and kind of look like I'm straightening up or getting them to try on stuff, and then I'll show them more tricks while I'm standing there too. That way, if they're still shopping, like I'm still showing them stuff that they wanted to see earlier, but I didn't keep them at the table very long, because we all lose our attention spans pretty quickly. So I try to treat people as if I was talking to my husband. Yes, ma'am.
Share the game that you told me about today.
Oh, the She Made Me Do It, that one? Okay, so I don't know about y'all, but I have repeat hostesses. Like, I've got a group of friends, there's probably 9 of them, they all host at different times throughout the year because they all want the free jewelry. And I have a very hard time of getting people to try on the jewelry. Like, I'm just not one of the, I'm like, here y'all, I'll tell them, like, please play with it, mess it up, try it on, you know, and I can't get anybody to do it. So what I did the other day is, instead of playing the purse game, because they had all seen it and knew all the letters and everything, is I just off the top of my head said, okay, I'm going to partner you off, and we're going to play a game called She Made Me Do It. And I said, I know everybody in this room either has kids or had a sibling growing up or had a best friend, and we all at one time heard, well, she made me do it. When you got in trouble, it was she made me do it. And so I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 minutes. You're going to go into the table, and you're going to decorate your partner with jewelry. And I said, now don't get funny and get carried away, because if she feels ridiculous, she's going to say, she made me do this. But if she decides to purchase something off of her that you have done, I'll give her 10% off her order and give you 10%. If she gets a bracelet, I'll give you 10% off a bracelet. And so it was one of those to where they were, and I heard them in there. I'm like, I want you to come back out. You're going to introduce your partner, and you're going to tell me what she would do with an extra $1,000 a month. And I heard them all in there going, okay, well, that's it. Yeah, okay, I like this. And so they were doing it. And I only had 2 girls go, she made me do this. I want to take this off. But they all laughed, and it got them all talking, and it just wasn't that, like, awkward silence of nobody putting on jewelry. So they all had it on, and it was very nice. And then people started talking like, oh, yeah, she said she wanted, you know, she'd do this with an extra $1,000 a month. So would I. And it kind of was one of those things. But I had 2 people actually buy a necklace that offered themselves that the other person had put on that they said never in a million years would they have ever put on. So it kind of worked out to my favor.
What part of your show did you do that?
The very beginning. You know how normally you go around and like introduce yourself? Yeah. I told them, I was like, y'all got 5 minutes, go. I think I gave them like maybe 4. But they came back out, and it was so funny because they're standing up there, and you could just see the ones that didn't want it on them. They're like, she made me do it. And everybody would bust out laughing. And then other women chimed in, well, I really like that with that shirt. And they'd go, really? I would never think to put this on. And somebody would go, ooh, I like it with that color. And you'd hear them, really? So it was one of those, it got them thinking outside the box. If April would have done that to me, I probably would have walked away with more than just a Laura necklace. I love them. And the cherry Coke thing, You know the 5 S's, cherry coke falls underneath that. I'd taken them off to go work out because sweat's one of the S's, and I threw them in my cup holder, and I had a styrofoam cup, and I set it down. And an hour and a half later, I realized that I had set them on top of my earrings, and so when I lifted it up, they'd been swimming in cherry coke for an hour and a half, but only one side of them turned. So I told her, I was like, I really don't need them, but I'm going to get them. So that was the second show I went to. And then she talked me into hosting, and now I'm selling, and now I'm up here.
Well, I just want to say just a couple things that, for just why I think Natalie is so successful is because she's so approachable and she's so, like Fallon said, she really makes you feel special. And she sent me a text after the show that I saw her at in April, and it was basically like, just the nicest things. And I mean, I was like, she made me feel good, and I was like trying to get her to sign up. But she just, it's the way you word it. And so what I've learned from her is that I've learned to make the comments on Facebook, to make them, even though I scroll through people's stuff all the time, you know, but to be like, and it's really made me, you know, think to take that extra time and effort. How many of you like to get a like on your picture? Okay. How many of you like to get a comment even more so? Okay, a comment is the best. So when you take the time to do that, though, it connects you with people. You know, for so long, I didn't take the time to even make my hostesses friends on Facebook. But why not? That's how we're connecting with people these days, and it's really important. So that is how we are able to build relationships and make them deeper. So I know that sounds crazy, and you know, but it really is true. So like Natalie's saying, she met these people at shows and they're saying no to her, but because she's not let that keep her away from making a relationship with them. And she still finds them on Facebook, she still compliments them, she still makes them feel really, really special. And you know what that really takes us getting out of ourselves and thinking about others rather than our own life and our own time frame and our own planning. And that is something that I think Premiere is about. So I really think that's why, like Kelly said, her show is simple. Y'all, I mean, if you come to my show, you will see the same show I did 3 years ago. Okay, I've not changed it. I am simple. I'll change up like the modeling part. Like, hey, let's go find the jewelry. I'll change the jewelry, obviously.
And I do almost identical to what you do.
But I do not change my show. And so a lot of you are like, well, what can I do? What's new and fun? What's, you know, and that's fine, but it really doesn't have to be that way. It can be simple, easy. They're not there for like some crazy show. They just want to see the jewelry and shop, you know? So you don't have to do anything crazy. It is a cookie cutter business. It's not brain surgery, thank God, you know? So anyways, I just wanted you guys to hear what Natalie does and just to see it's very simple, it's very easy, it's very duplicable. And to challenge you guys, you know, if you're looking for more bookings, it might be a process of learning to build relationships first before you're, you know, making the sale, because that's what it really is about in Premiere. So, thank you guys for letting me out.